Welcome to the Man Sports Fan Podcast. I'm not your usual host, Chris Smith, along with my good friends, Dog Millionaire, Roster Two Guards, The Flame, and Hayden Silvers, that Wisconsin couple. How we doing tonight, fellas?
We're drinking something, and we're a little sad Phil is not here.
Yeah, to Phil. Let's toast one. Moment of silence for Phil here.
To Phil.
Moment has passed.
I like that we're toasting a moment of silence.
Damn right.
I like that a lot.
He needed that.
I mean, realistically, we should probably sing. What's the song that Will Ferrell sang at Blue's funeral?
Dust in the Wind.
Dust in the Wind. Yeah, realistically, that's what we should sing right now.
So obviously we do not have Phil tonight. Phil is in Wisconsin, believe it or not, visiting family in Eau Claire. And you know the old saying, when in doubt, go to Stout. If you don't go there, go to Eau Claire, which is where Phil is. So shout out to Phil. I hope you're enjoying time with the fam. I'm playing backup QB tonight. Does anyone have a favorite backup QB?
Matt Flynn.
Yeah, Matt Flynn's up there. He's pretty
I'll
high.
triple Matt Flynn.
Malik Willis this year. I'm going to take him.
Yeah.
Flynn brought so much joy.
Scott Tolzien, the spin move against the Vikings. Yeah. Can't forget him.
Did he have a game in Dallas? Was that him in Dallas?
No, that was Flynn.
Well, Flynn did. I think they both did.
Yeah,
I feel like
Flynn came through, and Flynn came in that Dallas game and led the comeback.
Oh, that's right.
Is that the sixth touchdown game?
Was that Flynn?
No.
That was his second time with the Packers? Was that what that was?
Yeah, it was after he got released by Seattle.
That's right. He came
So
back.
good.
I forget that.
I just want to say that Matt Flynn won me a fantasy football championship. In that game, he threw 6 touchdowns. I started him in the championship, and he won.
Against the Lions.
With the 6 touchdowns.
Classic.
It was incredible.
That's
So
awesome.
shout out Matt Flynn. You're getting some love from the mans tonight. So we are nearing the end of the calendar year. And it's been a great year here on the Man Sports Fan Podcast. But what we want to know from the crew here is, what is your favorite personal moment of 2024? Frem, what do you got?
So I thought about this a bit. Bit behind it. We got new vehicles this year, which was really cool, really sweet. Kind of went against all logic I had growing up of always buying used vehicles, but bought 2 new vehicles this year, which is pretty exciting. And special meaning behind that, creating new memories and experiences with our family. So buying new vehicles. What do you guys got?
Okay. For me, I ran my first half marathon since 2012 this year, and I actually ran 2 of them. I tore my meniscus in my right knee in 2012 and just kind of never really got back into running, just kind of never really felt comfortable doing it. And I was really, really into running prior to getting injured. And then in 2021, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And at that point, I thought I would never, ever run competitively ever again. And my wife, Brooke, really pushed me to get back into it again. And I think in the summer of 2023, I started to get back into it, got injured, and got with a physical trainer, got some of the right exercises going on a daily basis, and was finally able to do it this year. I ran the Eau Claire half marathon and the Grandma's half marathon up in Duluth, and both were blasts. And I will probably talk about running a little bit later in this podcast, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Hayden, you have to follow that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. No, so mine was so Julie and I, we run the That Wisconsin Couple travel blog, and we spend a lot of time. We get very fortunate to get to spend a lot of time at really cool places, weekend getaways and stuff like that. And they're all fantastic in their own right. And they're all usually pretty scheduled, hey, we got stuff we got to do at this time. And it's all, which is all fine. It's all, set, and it's awesome. It goes by without a hitch. It's great. But the one trip we took around the 4th of July this year up to Minocqua, we stayed on Lower Gresham Lake, and it was like 10:30, and we're just in this little cottage, and we kind of didn't have anything going on, and all of a sudden we just started hearing these big loud booms going on outside. So we walked down to this little dock that was part of our cabin, and there was nobody else on the lake. It was clear water, clear skies, and there was a guy across the lake shooting off like professional fireworks. And we could see him getting shot from his dock, and they all the way up, and we probably watched it for a good 25 minutes, and it just seemed like it was like this sweet private fireworks show that my wife and I got on this random night up in the Northwoods, and that was that one sticks out the most to me for cool things that happened this year.
That's pretty neat.
Sick. Are you sure those loud booms were not the Costco guys?
They would not bring in the boom.
Just making
75
sure.
big booms.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, so for me, I love college basketball, and Addison Peck and I, shout out Addison Peck, went to the Big Ten tournament this year in Minneapolis. And the Badgers, they started on Thursday, and they made it all the way to Sunday. So they played 4 straight days. And we just spent 4 days up in Minneapolis watching basketball. We went to every game, went out to the bars at night, ate some good food. Like, it was just him and I, and it was just a blast to be able to spend those 4 days just watching college basketball, watching the Badgers. They beat Purdue, which was a big upset during that tournament. Almost beat Illinois to win the championship. But just a great time. Minneapolis is, I mean, you guys know, it's a great place to go and hang out too. And we stayed right downtown. Shout out Phil, Phil's brother, hooking us up with a hotel downtown too. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Davo,
I think it was Davo. Yeah.
Love Davo.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a personal moment. There's a sports podcast too. We like to talk about sports every now and then. Do you guys have a favorite sports moment of 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. Pivoting to sports. Favorite sports moment for me in the year of 2024 was Steph Curry going off in the men's gold medal game against France. I had to just review all the moments here, and when I saw that moment, I was like, no doubt, just how Steph Curry represented the U.S. on the national stage. It's an iconic performance, I think, that's going to go down in U.S. basketball history. And yeah, just something special about that. It really encapsulated just how Steph Curry plays the game, U.S. basketball on the national stage against a very good France team. And so love that Olympic memory, Steph Curry going off, taking the gold over France.
I had completely forgotten about the Olympics this year, so thanks for the reminder, because I probably rewatched Cole Hocker winning the 1500 meter gold medal. I probably rewatched that race, I don't know, 15 to 20 times. And yeah, that was a fun one. The track and field was so good in the Olympics this year. Other than that, I probably have to say that the Packers beating the Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs earlier this year was so satisfying. So satisfying in the moment, still satisfying afterwards because the Cowboys have completely imploded. And also the Bucks winning the NBA Cup. Probably those 3 for me. Yeah, pretty cool.
Man, we're going to stay on the basketball trend here. Guards, you'll appreciate this. Just Caitlin Clark finishing her collegiate career, 3,685 points. I think she also put up a NCAA finals single game record this last year as well. And just what she has done for not even women's basketball, but just getting more eyes in general on the sport, which it desperately needs because it is in a bit of a schneid right now. Basketball is, so it was really cool to kind of just see her take over the world for the March Madness run and just have everybody really appreciate what she did in college basketball.
Yeah, she tore it up, and she's going to continue to. And the
It's insane.
WNBA is going to expand, so it's going to be pretty cool to see what happens. For me, it's Shohei Ohtani going 50-50, technically going 55-59, was it? 55-59, I think he ended
Dang.
up. But the way he got 50-50, that game is the most memorable, probably, baseball game of all time in terms of an individual performance. The game you got 50-50, he went 6 for 6, 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 10 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. And that doesn't even sound real when I say that back. But Shohei Ohtani is great for the game of baseball. They need someone to kind of be the face of the game. Although it's making a ton of money, I don't think there's as many younger eyes on the game. So I'm hoping that he's someone that can help transcend the game forward for some of the younger generations. But just his year was incredible. And they won the World Series to cap it off, which is pretty cool, too. Not that we like the Dodgers, but cool for him. All right. We have to talk about the Packers. Okay, so the Packers played the Vikings, and I know, Gardner, this one's close to you. The Packers lost at Minnesota 27-25. Similar to the first time they played them this year, they got in a deep hole. In fact, at the end of the third quarter, it was 27-10. Packers were down, made a nice little comeback towards the end, just a little too late. Lost 27-25. There's a lot to digest here, so let's just dive in. Frem, why did the Packers lose the game?
Lack of offensive execution. Obviously, we turned it on late and were able to make the game close, but Josh Jacobs' fumble kind of gave it up on the run game a little bit there early, just not moving the ball down the field the right times, going for it in fourth down, still in that first half, not converting, etc. So lack of offensive execution, not coming out in the third quarter, punting the ball right away, etc. Obviously, we get the turnover by Valentine there, the great interception, and it turns the tide a little bit there for us. But overall, just didn't seem to have a great offensive game plan, or kind of did. I mean, up until that Josh Jacobs fumble, and then it just all kind of seemed to crumble from there. So I believe in another day, I think we performed much better. Just definitely was not our day coming out. And I think we kind of came out flat. I think it showed that we didn't have a lot to play for, and that Minnesota had everything to play for in this game, still chasing the number one seed, and we'll have a chance to take the number one seed against Detroit next week. So I think there's a bit of a mojo there that just wasn't there for us, and I hope we can definitely turn around and get it going, and hopefully have a dominant victory over Chicago and have some momentum going into the playoffs.
So let's go through the Packers' first 7 offensive possessions. First possession, Josh Jacobs fumbles on the Minnesota 41. Next one, Wicks has a miss near midfield on 3rd and 10. Got to have that. Next possession, we settle for a 22-yard field goal. Next possession, Reed drops a ball on 4th down that you got to have almost inside the red zone. Next one, illegal formation penalty, wipes out a first down. Love misses a shot play on 3rd and 5, and that was towards the end of the first half. First drive in the second half, we have 12 men in the huddle on 2nd and 5. We can't get the first down on 3rd and 9. The drive after that is when we scored a TD after Valentine's pick. And then the drive after that, we have an illegal formation after our first down catch, and Love gets sacked on 3rd down. I mean, games are won on the margins a lot of times, especially when teams are similar in talent level. And I feel like the Vikings and the Packers are similar in talent level, but the Packers aren't winning on the margins right now. They had major mistakes on 6 of their first 7 drives. That's not a winning formula. Also, I think I had said in the last week's pod that finishing in the red zone was going to be key this week. And once again, that reared its ugly head. Finishing with a field goal and turning the ball over on 4th down when you're nearly inside the red zone. The offense needs to be better, because I can't remember the last time our defense has made a stop when it matters. And that happened again at the end of the game. So offense needs to be better. No doubt.
So do you think, Gardner, to you and Frem's point, do you think there's a reason in these big games we either A, start slow, or B, just make these mistakes that we don't typically make? Like, what is it about the big games? I mean, obviously we're 0-5 against the top three teams in the NFC. So what is it during these games that we just can't execute to the same level?
I don't know, because this seems to be our typical consistent fashion now in these big games. Like this goes, I mean, this has been happening in all 5 of their losses this year. They either started out slow, or in the Eagles game, they were basically gifted a 14-0 lead, and they only ended up with 2 field goals. This has been a trend with this team all year long, and I'm not really sure what the issue is.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to put your finger on. I think, like Roster said, I do think I want to say that they are a different team the second half of the season. Like, and all the infographics will tell you, in any game right now that the Packers the last 2 seasons, they flip a switch. So I do think this is a different Packer team than, say, when they were playing, Philly early in the season, getting down 28-0 against Minnesota early in the season. This is not the same Packer team. However, I do agree with what Ross was saying, is there is some sort of glitch, in just the first part of the game where we don't seem to come out and just dominate from the get-go. So I mean, I think it goes to say we have to look at that script. Typically coordinators, coaches will script those first 15 plays. We have to have maybe better game plan coming out of the gate. It just kind of looks like maybe we don't have the best plan, and then executing that plan. So it's definitely a head scratcher, and I mean, I think that's going to haunt us coming out, because we're going to have to go on the road in the playoffs, and if we don't come out hot and get on the board right away, I think it's going to be a rough game for whoever we play.
That fumble was a real deflator, like a huge deflator.
Yep.
And they immediately go down and get points. The Vikings did.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, mistakes. I feel like we have made a lot of mistakes throughout the year this year. Stupid penalties, formations. I don't think I've ever seen this many illegal formation calls, just NFL wide, as I've seen this year. There has been so many and I guess that probably comes with, as these schemes get micromanaged down and you try to get every inch out of everything. And, you got multiple players that don't normally, register as eligible receivers or something like that. Offensive guys are just trying to do so much with so much movement, where I could see where like mistakes like that can happen. So, maybe don't execute on the field if you're not confident in doing that. But this was the first game that I thought that the Packers did not make a very good defensive adjustment throughout the entire game. I mean, how many times throughout all 4 quarters did a Vikings guy catch the ball and there wasn't a Packer within 10 yards of him? We don't run man-to-man coverage when Jair's not playing. And I don't know why we don't. I mean, obviously you can't really replace Jair, right? He's our guy, but you can't just play zone the entire game because one guy's out. And I was getting real annoyed, whether it was a screen pass that went for 18 yards or they threw the ball across the middle 20 yards down the field and there wasn't a guy within 10 yards of us.
Zero pressure to Hayden.
Yeah.
Like to go off of that. Like the defense got no pressure, whether we were, sending blitzes or we were just rushing with a 4-man front. Nothing.
And we also need, like, as good as these wide receivers are, we need a star wide receiver.
I was just going to say that we texted about that leading up to this. It's just obvious, right? When you get in these tough games, you need somebody to feed the ball to. And honestly, I think our stud to feed to right now is Tucker Kraft. I think that's the guy you feed right now, honestly.
For sure.
It stinks not having Watson because, I mean, as much as, we like to complain about how injured he is all the time, he is a game changer with how fast he is and how much he can stretch the field. There's no doubt about that.
But he's not Mr. Reliable in any sense of the word, right? Like, he's a guy that can burn you, but, when it's 4th and 3, we don't need a burner. We need a guy who's going to get open and catch the ball. It's or 3rd and 8, we need a guy. We just need a number 1 receiver. We got a bunch of 2s, and they're great, and they do their job well, but it's just not enough in this offensive day and age.
Should have traded up for Brian Thomas, Chris?
Right? Yeah, I mean, I was the guy beating the drum on this podcast saying wide receiver was the biggest need for the Packers this offseason. They didn't address it. I mean, they wanted to play with what they had, which is fine, but I think we are seeing some flaws in that right now. So it'll be interesting to see how we combat that this offseason, knowing what we got. My big thing is just Jordan Love. Maybe it's not just Jordan Love, but the fact that we weren't able to run the ball too effectively to start the game, we just didn't feel like we really knew what to do when we weren't able to run the ball. And I think not having Christian Watson actually did make a difference because, like you said, his ability to stretch the field. But it just didn't feel like we had a great game plan around what if we just have to continue to throw the ball. And we just weren't able to scheme guys open very well. The other thing I wanted to just make mention of is there's been a couple games this year where Matt LaFleur gets a little he wears his emotions on his sleeve almost to a point where I think it's a detriment to the team. He got that penalty earlier in the year and they overcame it and scored that touchdown. But I think it was when we were offsides, which I don't know if we were offsides. He kind of just went off on the refs again, and sometimes I think that leaks onto the players a little bit. So I want him to be a little bit more calm on the sidelines. Obviously, work the refs, but like when you're working with your players and trying to encourage them and get through things, like they're gonna follow what he's doing, and sometimes he goes on these tangents. And I'm like, come on, man, just chill a little bit. Like everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, it's disappointing to be 0-5 against Philly, Minnesota, and Detroit. I think definitely concerning heading into the playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs, right now the Packers are in line to be the number 7 seed, and that would mean heading to Philly. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Washington this week. If Washington loses, we could bump up, but most likely we're going to be heading to Philly, week 1 of the wild card. Frem, what do you make of our playoff situation? Do we have a run in us, or where are we at?
You're muted from.
You probably want to mute this because you're not going to like what I hear. But anyways, I think we can play with anyone. I think I said before that this team has proven they can go out there and be competitive in any game. If it's going to be Philly, that's going to be an L. I just don't see us going into Philadelphia and winning. So if that's, I think, what is going to happen here, unless maybe Dallas pulls off a miracle for us and beats Washington. Yeah, going into Philly, I just don't see us winning that game. There's going to be a ton of pressure on us, and I think Philadelphia's going to be very comfortable at home in the playoffs. So will we make it a game? Will we make it a fun game? A game with some drama? Absolutely. Will we win the game? No, I do not.
I mean, we pretty much need to come out gangbusters like we did against Dallas last year. Like, not really necessarily to that extent, but I think I'm a little bit more confident about the potential of us going into either Philadelphia or Minnesota and winning versus going to Detroit, because Detroit fans have not had as much experience with playoff misery as the Eagles and Minnesota Vikings fans have. And I feel like if you get up early on either of those teams, that buttholes start to pucker just a little bit from everybody in the crowd, and everybody gets tense, and you can feel it. You can feel it on the broadcast, and you can feel it in the stadium. So that to say, judging on how we have not consistently come out and played well against these teams in these big games in the first half, I would say that we will probably end up losing against Philadelphia, but I think it'll probably be a game, hopefully.
Yeah, this is like the first year I feel like as a Packer fan in a long time that I can't really even have like false hope going into the playoffs. Usually I can talk myself into being like, yeah, we can beat anybody any given day. But the fact that we haven't beaten any of these teams that we're going to have to play in the playoffs makes me incredibly nervous. It makes me even more nervous if we have to play a Tampa or a LA Rams, because that just looks worse if we lose to that or to either of those teams. So I got a new Jordan Love jersey for Christmas, and yeah, I'm 0-1 with it. So I don't know if I can wear it the rest of the year, and I might have to just revert back to my sweatshirt or the Rodgers jersey until I can get a little bit of magic in that Love jersey going. But let's just say I'm not going in with a ton of confidence into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's really too bad. I mean, had we beaten Minnesota or Washington loses and we're in line for the 6th seed, I mean, think about it. Tampa Bay and LA, like the home field advantage there is way less than a place like Philadelphia.
Oh, for sure.
And the one thing, maybe the silver lining here is like the Philly's going to go all in to try to get Barkley the record this weekend. And, you know, if he gets hurt, that's on them. That puts us in a much better situation because my confidence in us being able to stop Saquon is pretty low. And obviously they're healthy on offense right now with all their skill position players. So it's going to be hard to go in there and beat them. But Philly might do something stupid this weekend that could help the Packers. So that's something I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on. But yeah, I'm kind of the same. I just don't feel like we can go on this. This just doesn't feel like the year to go on a run. Just with our inability to play mistake-free football in big games, and then having to go on the road every single week is going to make it an even more uphill battle.
You know, to play devil's advocate real quick, that 2009-2010 team that won the Super Bowl went into Philly in round 1 and won that football game and went on the road the entire postseason and won. So
let's go.
I'm saying that there's a chance.
Yeah.
You guys hear me anymore?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
You're good.
You're good.
I think that Philly team had a good Michael Vick, not a great Michael Vick, and I think this Philly defense, unfortunately, led by the former Badger Zach Bond, they're a much better defense, I think, and yeah, it's going to be tough. I totally agree with you, Rosser. I think we're going to have to come in there and just hit them in the teeth right away. Make some turnovers, score some early points, build some momentum against them, and maybe make them play catch up. I think that's the only way we go into Philly and win.
I mean, you got to match them at least. Like if they score 14 in the first 18 minutes, you have to score 14 as well. You have to match them in a game like that. It can't be 14-3 with 6 minutes left in the second quarter. I wouldn't feel confident about our ability to come back from something like that.
Yeah, it's game over if you're down by 10 or more at half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that could be on our side is, I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to be basically 3 weeks without playing football because he's going to sit out next week, I'm assuming. So he could be a little rusty too. So we'll see. I do think this is the best NFC playoff field we have ever seen. I mean, I think every team in the playoffs has a legit quarterback that can win games. And there's always usually one team that's like, don't worry about them. Like, the way Jaden Daniels looked last night, I mean, anyone can beat anyone in the NFC, and it's going to be fun to watch. I would not put my money on anybody.
I hear you.
Okay. So I was kind of blowing up the group chat yesterday, kind of jokingly, but then as I'm listening to some national radio this morning, the same conversation came up. So I felt like it's worthy of talking about on the pod. Sam Darnold obviously played very well. He's played well all year. We talked about that last week. Jordan Love has regressed this season in terms of what he did the second half of last year. They're pretty comparable in age, 27 and 26. Darnold's a year older. Is Darnold better than Love? Is he in a better situation than Love? I mean, you look at stats-wise, it's a no-brainer. But like, what do you see from in terms of these two quarterbacks?
Just looking at the situations they're in for right now, not going on potential, not going on, all these other, what do I think their careers will be, etc. this season in their situation, Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Jordan Love. That pains me to say that out loud, but that's the truth. That's a shocking revelation. If you'd asked me that at the beginning of the season, I would have never agreed with that. But given what Kevin O'Connell has done in the situation, you just look at how confident Sam Darnold is right now. Is he perfect? Right? I mean, Jordan Love's far from perfect this year. So Sam Darnold is a top tier quarterback in the NFL right now in the situation with the offense he has right now. Will that stick? Will that last? I'm not making that point right now. Right now, Sam Darnold, I think you could even make a case he's probably going to be the top 5 quarterback in the playoffs of the QBs in the field. Just given how well he does in that offense and the experience he's had going into the playoffs, I think he has, versus a guy like Jaden Daniels, you could argue Jaden Daniels maybe has more raw skill than Sam Darnold, but given Sam Darnold's experience and how he plays in that offense, I would take Sam Darnold.
I find it hard to I don't know, maybe I'm just biased and going off of just past experience with that guy, but I just find it hard to give it to Darnold after one good season. And I mean, granted, we have only one prior season of experience with Love, but he's actually won a game in the playoffs and was close to winning another one in the playoffs last year. So maybe my bias is going there. I'm not ready to give him that. I think that I will throw Darnold a bone. I think that him and Love are solidly in the same tier of quarterbacks because, like, if you look at like tiers of quarterbacks in the league, I think that there's 5 guys who are like unimpeachably in the top 5. It's Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, and Herbert. Whatever order you want to throw them in, go for it. And then after that, it's from like QBs like 6 to 17. Like it could kind of just be dealer's choice. Like, who do you like better? But I feel like now Darnold and Love are somewhere both in that 6 to 12 range. So, no, I'm not ready to say that Darnold's better than Jordan Love. I think he's had a little bit more luck in 1-score games this year, and the records could completely be flipped. Like the Packers are 5-4 in 1-score games, and the Vikings haven't lost in a 1-score game this year. So some of that is just luck, a little bit.
I think right now the eye test, the small sample size we have to finally get to see Sam Darnold break out, I think it's no question that he is better than Jordan Love at this moment in time, certainly this season. I think Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in the NFC. So I think that puts him in the top 5 quarterbacks, arguably, in the NFL because the AFC is all quarterback heavy. But it's hard. I mean, to me, it's pretty easy that Darnold is a much better quarterback than Jordan Love at this time. Now let's see where Darnold ends up and what kind of situation he's either forced into or gets with Minnesota. And if he can do it again, then good for him. But I think in the long run, Jordan Love might be a little bit better. But at this current time, it's pretty easy to say that Sam Darnold is better than Jordan Love.
It's an interesting take about the NFC. I haven't really thought about it that way of like who are the elite QBs in the NFC. I think right now, situationally, I'd probably put Goff at 1. But yeah, I mean they're all kind of in that same tier. Like I don't think Hurts is a great quarterback by any means. Baker's obviously having a breakout year again too in Tampa. Like there's just a lot of guys that are actually trending the right direction. I'm sidestepping this question because I don't know if I know the answer. Sam Darnold's obviously having a better year. Like if we were teleported onto Earth and knew nothing about Sam Darnold pre-2024 and we just watched them side by side, we would all say Sam Darnold's probably the better prospect. Love's just struggled a little bit this year. And when he's been in situations where he's forced to throw, he's missed a lot. So I'm hoping that's just something that he can get over and like completions breed completions type of thing. Whereas Darnold, you can just see the confidence when he's playing. And obviously having a guy like Justin Jefferson is huge as a security blanket. and that system. I mean, Gardner, I don't know how the Viking fans feel, but I think Kevin O'Connell is a top 3 coach in the NFL, like hands down. And obviously has been a godsend for Darnold's career too. So a lot goes into that.
I don't think Jordan Love is having that bad of a season, guys. Like, look at his stats, like, compared to last year. The only thing that's a little bit different is he's thrown a couple more interceptions this year than last year. Like, his touchdowns per game are comparable. His yards are a little bit down this year as well. But otherwise, they've won more. And he's played 2 less games this year compared to last year. I mean, I was on Pro Football Reference this morning comparing stats year over year. His completion percentage is about the same. So I don't think he's missing as many throws as we think he is.
I think to back, that point, it's who is he throwing to, right? You said it, Roster. If Watson's not in the field, who's his deep threat? Who's he throwing the ball to? I drafted Patrick Mahomes in fantasy because I thought, oh, look, he's going to have Hollywood Brown, he's going to have Rice, he's going to have Worthy, all these targets, right? And then they get injured, right? And then who are you throwing the ball to, right? So it's tough to base a QB's success sometimes, like Jordan Love. I mean, also the game plan is not revolving around the pass. It's revolving a lot around the run. So it is tricky. I agree with your point, Chris, about when he has been asked to throw it at times, it hasn't gone as well. But it is tricky to look at those stats and measure his success off of that, because sometimes he's not being asked to throw. And then also saying, who's he throwing to? Dobbs is out for a little while there. Watson's been in and out. It's just, I don't know. Reed hasn't really established himself this year as that guy that we want him to be. So it's tough. And unfortunately, a lot of times the QB success does, it does depend on that chemistry and the guy they're throwing the ball to.
Yeah, go Hayden.
I was going to say, in the 2 games he played head-to-head against Darnold, he got outplayed like tremendously by Sam Darnold both games. So, I mean, Sam Darnold just threw 370 yards and 3 touchdowns on us. Yeah. Jordan Love hasn't done anything close to that this year.
Close it up, Gardner.
Having Addison, Jefferson, and Hawkinson as your top 3 pass catchers is where Darnold has the advantage right now, no doubt.
For sure.
Veteran out of the backfield and Jones too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be kind of an interesting storyline to follow. Obviously, what's Minnesota going to do with Darnold? That's a whole conversation for another day. Overall, frustrating game. Obviously, that offsides on a field goal kind of shifted some momentum. Our us not taking a field goal on that 4th down that could have maybe shifted the game. Field goals were a conversation, and I know Hayden, we have a great sponsor about field goals that I want to make sure that you're able to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Those field goals, man, missed field goals drive a man absolutely insane. Almost put him in his grave, if you will. So the Man Sports Fan is proudly sponsored by Field Goal Funeral Services, company that helps you promptly mourn those heartbreaking missed kicks. From custom gravestones for your fantasy team's playoff hopes to a 21 hot dog salute at your next tailgate, we ensure every painful miss is commemorated with dignity. Our services also include emotional support calls from retired kickers who have been through it all, and commemorative "we were this close" wristbands for all fans to wear during the grieving process. For especially tough losses, we offer group therapy, tailgates where fans can unite in their shared suffering over cold beers and warm nachos. And if you need closure, our post-game eulogy package includes a heartfelt speech delivered by a professional announcer. Use code WIDE. Use code WIDELEFT, all caps, for the free kick dummy to burn after your next loss. Field Goal Funeral Services, closure for when it's not good, but could have been great.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I feel like
that was unreal.
The promo code WIDELEFT.
I appreciate you saying the all caps though, because if you don't say that, people might not get the promo code.
You're probably not going to be able to redeem the code.
Next
Yeah, I
time I
think-
have a relative that passes away, I'm going to use field goal funeral services.
There you go.
Dude,
No
I'll
doubt.
tell you what, that's almost like a genius like cameo thing that retired kickers should do. They should put themselves out on cameo to
They
like
should.
talk people off the ledge after a missed kick.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we know there's going to be some missed kicks in the playoffs. And
Look at
as
tonight
we
in the San
transition, we
Francisco
want to
game.
right, and we want to transition to talking about the NFL. Obviously, with the playoffs coming up, week 17 was kind of a weird week, right? We had games on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday. Frem, what's a game that stood out to you for whatever reason?
Stood out to me in the NFL. I think it's that recency bias, but that Falcon Commander game last night, I mean, that was fun. That was playoff atmosphere. Like you can tell, those teams are both playing for everything there. Penix having to come down and tie up the game going to overtime. Just the energy to that game, the intensity to that game, and seeing two very young quarterbacks just go toe to toe and seeing the future of the NFL there on the field is really exciting. Falcons don't get put enough in prime time. I'm a Bijan believer. Obviously, I've drafted him in fantasy, and just getting to see him in prime time is really special. I think Falcons are one of those kind of hidden teams just because of their lack of success. Their lack of having a really good quarterback, I think, has hurt them in getting those primetime slots. They have so many offensive pieces there and so much talent. And so hopefully Atlanta gets some more primetime games because with their core players there, with London, Robinson, maybe Pitts, if he's part of that conversation, Mooney, they have a good core. And if Penix is their guy, I mean, I think they definitely should get more primetime games.
I got to turn my attention real quick to both of the sorry franchises that exist in New York City. First, the Jets getting blown out by the Bills and Rodgers asking out of the game at the end, and Tyrod Taylor promptly going in and leading them to 2 scores was seemed like some poetic justice. But I think my big one was I somehow knew that when the Giants were in the pole position for the number 1 pick, that they would probably find a way to screw it up. And look what they did on Sunday. Drew Lock comes out and puts 45 points up on the Colts. and they lose the number 1 pick, and it seems like they're not going to get it. Now they drop down to number 4. I feel bad for their fans because I think both fan bases have stuck with those teams through thick and thin throughout the years, and they just have not been rewarded. And once again, the Giants screwed it up.
I will go to the flip end of the New York Giants and Indianapolis Colts game. For a team who was still very much in the playoff hunt and, held somewhat, control what you can control, right, in the NFL. The Colts, who still were playing for a playoff spot, came up and gave up 45 points to a team who hasn't scored 30 all year and is potentially the worst team in the NFL. I don't know what is going on in Indianapolis. They have a very good roster. They have all their guys paid, and they continue to just find new ways to not make the playoffs. It's baffling.
Is Shane Steichen maybe going to be one of those surprise firings on Black Monday this year?
I don't think it'll be a surprise.
Huh.
I think he should. I said that many podcasts ago just because he put all his eggs in Anthony Richardson, and that's not going to work out, and their franchise is going nowhere.
Yeah,
No.
He completed 7 passes last week, and they I feel like they shadow benched him this week. He completed 7 passes, and then they said that he had a back injury.
Aiden, I was not prepared because I thought for sure you were going to take the Bengals game, so I kind of crossed that out. The Bengals-Broncos game was wild. Obviously, the Bengals needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. They tried to blow the game on several occasions. Chase Brown got himself hurt trying to go down when he should have never been in that situation. Mismanagement of timeouts. You had the field goal situation. But the Bengals found a way, and Joe Burrow, like, I know Hayden would not disagree with this, but he should be right in the MVP conversation. He won't be because their team's record, but I mean, line up the stats. I mean, he's had an incredible season, and he's putting them on their back. Chase and Higgins are just on fire right now. If you had them on fantasy teams, they probably led you to championships. It's not a team you want to play, and it's interesting because the Chiefs sort of control that destiny. So we'll see what they do this weekend. But I don't want to take too much of that thunder because I know Hayden's going to talk about it. Yeah, well, let's save that conversation about Burrow though, because I think we could get in the weeds on that. Let's talk about the teams that are sort of on the outside in of the playoffs. The playoff picture is pretty set. Week 18 is going to be a little boring from the standpoint of chaos and scenarios, but there are some teams that can still make it in. So we want to go through those teams and just talk about like what's the case for them to make it in. So let's start with Frem. You get the Dolphins. The Dolphins are still mathematically alive for the wild card. What's your case to get them into the playoffs?
Let's be clear. I don't want the Dolphins in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be an exciting team to watch. 2, they have a 28% chance to make it into the playoffs. 3, I actually like their chances to make it in the playoffs, as painful as that is to say. They just have to beat the New York Jets. Gardner already highlighted how terrible that organization is right now. Is Rodgers even going to play the last game? Maybe if Tyrod Taylor plays, they lose because Tyrod will actually lead this offense somewhere and ignite a spark there. But I don't think Tua is going to even come back for the game here. Huntley is going to have to, what do they call him, Snoop Huntley or something like this right now. So
Snoop Huntley.
He's going to be their guy. I think they beat New York. Interesting. So they need the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs with the number 1 seed, they're going to rest everyone. Carson Wentz, though, is a backup quarterback for the Chiefs. No slouch there. I think Carson's going to have something to play for if he wants to reignite his NFL career right here. I don't think the Chiefs are going to lay down in a divisional game. I know it's on the road at Mile High. I think the Chiefs actually could beat Denver. I actually like the odds of the Dolphins to get in the playoffs. In a perfect world, the Dolphins somehow choke, the Broncos lose, and we get to watch Joe Burrow in the playoffs. That'd be the most ideal situation. But I do think, even though it's 28%, I do think the Dolphins actually have a pretty good chance to make it into the playoffs just because of the scenarios surrounding the 7th seed for them.
I think it's funny that you called Carson Wentz still. What did you call him? Still like a decent quarterback or a decent option?
I mean, he's a great backup.
I literally wrote in my notes that they were going to play against the ghost of Carson Wentz.
Ghost of Carson Wentz.
The ghost of Carson Wentz.
Former number 2 overall pick. I don't think Carson Wentz is cooked yet. I think he still has something in the tank.
How old is Carson Wentz?
He was MVP until he got hurt.
Sucks,
he was MVP. He was MVP of the league until he got hurt. And then they still went on and won the Super Bowl.
He got hurt, and then Jim Irsay wanted him off his team as fast as he could after they blew that game against the Jaguars in Week 18 a few years ago. So
we found out that the Colts aren't a very good organization to bring a quarterback.
No, they're not.
Colts were rough. Yeah. He went to LA. Wasn't great out there, but I mean, he's not the same guy. He's not going to run on you, but I think he's still a pocket passer, and I think he's better than many other NFL quarterbacks out there. So
you're probably right.
He's capable.
I don't think he's capable of beating the Broncos, though, this week. I think the Broncos win and they're in. I mean, that's literally all that they have to do is they just have to go on the road. I'm pretty sure they're on the road. Does that sound right? Or are they in Denver?
No, it's in Denver, I believe.
It's in Denver. Okay.
On the road.
Either way, you win a home game against the Chiefs, who are probably going to be playing a lot of backups, and you're in the playoffs. If the Broncos don't win this week, then they never deserve to be in the playoffs to begin with.
Hayden, you've been beating the drum 8% last week. I don't know what we're up to now, but what about the Bengals?
It literally went down. But but I will say this again. This is, well, first of all, Joe Burrow. I'll start with saying Joe Burrow needs to be in the playoffs every year. He is an elite talent, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be, if they don't make it, he's going to be the only elite quarterback to not make the playoffs this year. And nobody wants that. But this is the 5% scenario that the Cincinnati Bengals have to make the playoffs still. Obviously, they need to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're on a 5-game winning streak right now. Joe Burrow's playing out of his freaking mind. So I don't see them struggling putting up points. Yes, their defense is going to struggle, but Pittsburgh has also been on the decline offensively. So this is by far and above a very winnable game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Then they need a little bit of help. Frem kind of made me feel better when he's like, well, I don't want the Dolphins in the playoffs. And they're a team to me that is in like kind of like no man's land. They don't really, they say they have an identity with this, all these high marquee players, but they can never seem to mesh it together. And they're a team that can lose to anyone in football. So I would not be surprised at all to see them lose to the struggling Jets. And then this is a big moment for Denver. We saw it was a big moment for them this last week against the Bengals, who have a terrible defense. And yes, they did put up points against the Bengals, but they were unable to finish the game out. And even though it's going to be against, the JV Chiefs squad, the Chiefs second string guys, these are still pro athletes that are really good, that have been there before, and they have a lot of experience. It's got to be daunting to look across the field as a rookie quarterback sitting there going, man, all I have to do is beat the defending back-to-back world champs and we're in. Like, that's not an easy task, even if it isn't against Patrick Mahomes as the starting lineup. So that, to me, is one of the best looking roads for a 5% chance to make the playoffs that I've ever seen. And if they do make the playoffs, nobody wants to run into the Bengals, because nobody wants to actually have, as fun as they say these shootout games are, nobody wants to have a shootout against Joe Burrow.
Nobody wants to try to slow down that offense.
I get the NFC South. That's really the only other. So we have the AFC wild card, which is those 3 teams. Then we have the NFC South, which is still technically up for grabs. I'm going to shut the door on this pretty quickly, though. Tampa Bay is in the driver's seat. They just need to win. They play New Orleans. They're at home. We saw what New Orleans has. They have nothing left of their team. Mike Evans needs like 90 yards to get 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Tampa Bay is going to roll just like they did against Carolina this last week. The Falcons had their Super Bowl against Washington on Sunday night. They played really well, just wasn't enough, and they're going to be out. Buccaneers sneak in as would they be the 3 or the 4? I actually don't know that.
I think the 4.
Yeah, they'd be the 4. So NFC is going to be loaded. It's going to be fun to watch. AFC, yeah, Burrow gets in. Holy cow. This would be the best playoffs ever in terms of like QBs. Holy cow. The only other thing up for grabs then is the Sunday night game next week, which is going to be Minnesota at Detroit. And this is big because whoever wins gets the 1 seed. Whoever loses gets the 5 seed. And remember, the 1 seed is the only team that gets a bye in the NFL playoffs. Let's not go deep into the analysis here, but just give me your sort of prediction. Who wins and what kind of score are we looking at?
Remind me, this game is in Minnesota?
It is in Detroit, and the Lions are
Detroit.
3-point favorites.
In Detroit. I'll comment. You want to score?
Yeah.
I think Detroit gets it done at home. High scoring affair, 35-31.
I also think it's going to be high scoring, but I'm going the other way. Vikings 33, Lions 31, and hopefully I'm not jinxing it for all of my Minnesota Vikings family.
Well, we hope you are. And I'm going to also take the Vikings in a big shootout. Let's go 42-35, Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota too. I'm going to say like 31-28. I just think the Lions defense is so beat up and the Vikings are on a heater. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun matchup. It'll definitely be the best game of the weekend and has a lot of implications. Speaking of the Vikings, I think a lot of people are probably gravitating towards being Vikings fans these days. Maybe they like Sam Darnold. They love Justin Jefferson. Some may call them bandwagon fans. And so I want to talk about our new sponsor, the Bandwagon Express. the official travel agency for fair weather fans. Are your team's playoff hopes toast? Maybe you're a Giants fan. Did your star quarterback suddenly forget how to throw? Or did your coach forget to call a timeout at the end of the game? Like the Bears. No worries, we'll find you a new squad with a winning record and no shame required. Our services include personalized gear swaps, team-specific trivia crash courses, and even customized social media posts to make it look like you've been rooting for that team the whole time. Sign up now and we'll throw in a free punctuation or pronunciation coaching for tough names like Tagovailoa or Giannis Antetokounmpo before your next Dolphins or Bucks game. Plus, for premium members, we offer a rivalry detox program to help you unlearn all the smack talk about your newly adopted team. The Bandwagon Express, where loyalty is flexible and winning feels great.
I gotta tell you, it is unbelievably disrespectful to do that ad after talking about the Vikings.
I love it.
I mean, I think we all know a few people.
Hate them as much as you want. Hate the Vikings. Hate their fans. Dude, they have been loyal to that crap franchise for as long as they have been in existence. So
every sports team has loyal fans that
Yeah.
should be loyal.
I do appreciate Vikings fans. They definitely are loyal. Like, you don't see a lot of green when the Packers play there.
It's true.
And they even mentioned it on the broadcast, which I thought that was interesting too. So
yeah.
Vikings fans are loyal. I'm just saying, like, maybe there's that that 13-year-old that just loves Justin Jefferson. He's like, I'm gonna be a Vikings fan now. And maybe that's who we're talking about. Speaking of football, college football playoffs. We're in a great time of year. We have 4 more matchups over the next 2 days. We have the Fiesta Bowl, which is Penn State and Boise State. Remember, these are all neutral site matchups now. So Penn State versus Boise State tomorrow night, and then on Wednesday we have Texas versus Arizona State in the Peach Bowl, Ohio State versus Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and Notre Dame versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. We can go quick on this. With Frem, any matchups jump out to you? What are you looking forward to for any of these?
It's an old school Pac-12 Big Ten Rose Bowl game here. Oregon versus Ohio State. I think this actually is a sub-national championship game. I think these are 2 of the best teams in the country, ton of studs, and I think whoever wins this game is winning the national championship. So tune in to the Rose Bowl. If you remember the old Pac-12 not long ago, and Big Ten, they'd always match up top teams in the Rose Bowl. So this one should be a great one.
I'm gonna rank them in terms of like which ones I actually want to watch. I probably won't tune in for Texas and their butt whooping of Arizona State. I think Georgia's gonna beat Notre Dame. That's number 3 for me. Number 2 is Ohio State, Oregon, and number 1 is Boise State versus Penn State. I really want to watch that running back go against Penn State. And Boise State played well against Oregon on the road earlier this season in the only real like top 10 matchup that they have. So I want to see a non-Power 5 conference team and what they look like. Or are they in the Power 5 now?
They're not a Power 5.
Are they Mountain West still?
Yep.
Okay, this is an interesting slate of games in my eyes here. I do agree with Brian about the Ohio State Oregon should probably be the national championship matchup. It's kind of a shame that we get them in the quarterfinals, but that also makes football a little bit more interesting before the national championship. I do think that Oregon beats Ohio State, and this is the end of Ryan Day in Ohio State, which is mind-blowing to say that a guy who has lost like 5 games in 3 years just all to the wrong team is just going to get the boot for having like a 90% winning percentage as a coach. So I'm going to pick Oregon. It's not an upset. I mean, Ohio State fans will call it an upset if but I think Oregon is gonna get it done again. I'm very intrigued Notre Dame, Georgia, though, because I am, speaking of the bandwagon sponsorship we just had, I jumped on the Georgia bandwagon hard. And I think that they had the biggest gripe last year for getting left out of the playoff. I think they would have rolled. I don't. I don't think Michigan would have stacked up against them last year, in my opinion. So I'm looking for kind of a beatdown of Notre Dame because I'm not a big Notre Dame guy. They need to pick a freaking conference.
True. I agree with you. I think Georgia would have won last year too. Interesting note about the Georgia game: Carson Beck is out, and I think he's out for the entire playoffs. So they're rolling out their backup. Thing is, they're so loaded that yeah, it'll be interesting to see against Notre Dame because Notre Dame's hot.
They are.
I'm with Gardner. I mean, obviously, the Rose Bowl is the game I'm most looking forward to. Oregon, Ohio State. The game's going to be awesome. But I kind of agree that Penn State, Boise State's got some 2007 vibes to it when Boise State upset Oklahoma, pulled out the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty.
Whole
Were
new
you guys
coaching
watching
staff.
that game? Were you
Yes.
guys watching that game live? I
Yes.
remember watching it by myself in the basement live.
I actually just looked it up because I was like, that was like, what, 2010? No, it was 2007. I was like,
Yeah,
holy
it was a
cow,
long time ago.
But yeah, whole new coaching staff, whole new everything, but it just feels like Boise's got a little magic in them still. Ashton Jenney, that running back, is awesome. And Penn State is not a team that's going to roll. I just don't think they're going to dominate. They're a team that likes to ground and pound and keep games close. So if Boise can run the ball effectively, they got a shot. They're 11-point dogs, so I'm not sure if Vegas believes it all, but I hope that game's close. So it'll be interesting. Frem, you kind of alluded to that Ohio State, Oregon. I'm just kind of curious, who do you guys think, who's going to win the national championship? If you had to pick today, who are you picking?
It's a great take on top of what Hato just said. I'm going with the Ohio State. I'm going to ride them into the ship and to take it all. I know they had the blunder against Michigan late in the year, and I think many people would question them from there. But just seeing the confidence of Will Howard right now, Travion Henderson's going to be a very special running back at the next level. And then I don't always check out the Ohio State wide receiving core. I just always assume they're amazing. But Jeremiah Smith is a stud. He's a beast.
Yes.
So we could get a guy like that from the Packers. That'd be amazing. But this team has a bunch of playmakers. Yes, Oregon has an elite offense, but I think it's going to be a very high-scoring affair here. And I think, if you watch the end of that Ohio State game, Will Howard, whatever, should have got down sooner, whatnot. The clock management end the game against Oregon. They lose by 1 point in the regular season. So this is going to be a great one. And I think Ohio State's going to take it all here. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see them match up, like you said, Hato, against somebody like Georgia there at the end.
Since I haven't watched enough college football this year, I think I'm just going to default to the best SEC team and pick Georgia. That's my pick for the national title.
Good pick.
Fair enough. I'm kind of. I think this is weird because I have publicly stated that I am not like the NFL is much better than college. I don't put as many chips in my little pot as I do in the NFL as I do I put more chips in the NFL pot than I do in the college football pot. The competition is just better. But I never thought as a Badger fan that I would want Ohio State to ever win. But for Ryan Day's sake, I mean, this guy has done really nothing but win everything but a national championship, and he gets more negativity and flack brought on him for not being able to beat Michigan when they went on historic runs. Like, he's just that outside guy that couldn't beat Michigan, and he's getting absolutely murdered for it. So for his sake, for his family's sake, I want Ohio State to win.
Yeah, we're going to have 3 picks for Ohio State because I'm going with them too. I think that loss to Michigan kind of woke them up. I think they're the most talented team. Poor Oregon got the worst draw of all time as the 1 seed to have to play Ohio State.
Big time.
And then Ohio State would have to play Texas, which is going to be a tough game. I think they can get by them. I kind of agree. I just think their path is good. They're talented. And Ryan Day, just kind of feels like that loss to Michigan might be might be the culmination of something good that's about to happen. So we'll see. I'll tell you what, my favorite part about college football, though, a lot of times it's just watching the mascots do ridiculous things. And I think you guys might agree with that. I don't know if any of you watched the Pop-Tart Bowl, where they sacrificed the Pop-Tart mascot. I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
In fact,
It's
one
so
of my
good.
favorite moments. But Frem, I know you want to talk to us a little bit about mascots. So what do you got for us tonight?
Mascots. So tonight's episode is brought to you by the Mascot Mayhem Training Camp, the premier academy for those who dream of becoming the ultimate sideline sensation. At Mascot Mayhem, we teach future mascots how to pump up the crowd, nail the moonwalk in oversized shoes, and gracefully survive surprise tackles from overenthusiastic fans or the occasional rogue player. Our advanced courses include dancing with limited vision, crowd surfing 101, and sign holding without breaking character, ensuring every mascot is prepared for game day chaos. We even offer a specialized course in emergency costume repairs for those last minute mishaps with zippers or rogue pom-poms. Graduates receive an official certification, a free foam head cleaning kit, and lifetime access to our exclusive mascot networking forum, Mascot Mayhem Training Camp, because the team may lose, but the mascot never does.
Love
It's
that.
true. I think my favorite part about playing college sports video games growing up is that there was always this mascot feature where you could like have all Buckies playing against all Ducks.
Hell yeah.
And it was,
That was
awesome.
great.
So, shout out to the mascots. It's such an underrated part of the game, but essential to the life of a college football atmosphere. Let's transition. We're at the end of the year. By the way, early Happy New Year's to all of you.
You as well?
We're almost to 2025. So on the topic of sports, what are your sort of 3 sports-related resolutions for 2025? What do you want to see happen this upcoming year?
So I shot for the moon here. Speaking of the moon, for number 1, I want to see the Bucks in the finals. I think our window is very limited, and I know I'm going to rile up the flame over here talking about the Bucks, but
You're good.
I just question how long Giannis is going to stick around with us. If the old Dame Giannis experience is going to be the real deal. I think we got to make a run here. Hopefully the Celtics will not be able to repeat, and we'll be able to somehow get over the hump. Maybe we'll get the right draw in the playoff bracket and whatnot, and be able to have a good path. But the Bucks need to make a finals appearance. I didn't even say finals victory. I think at least just make it back to the finals would be a huge accomplishment for this team. Badger football, at least getting a winning record. I'd like to at least see us getting over that hump, maybe a 7-5 record at least, turning in the right direction, hopefully with a new quarterback. We completely emptied our QB room in the offseason, so I'm super interested to see how that looks moving forward. I hope we establish a QB here. I think one of you all is going to make that points coming up here, but at least having a winning record, taking the axe back, got to beat Minnesota. And this year I have too many relatives from Minnesota that talk about that axe. So that, and then Brewers need to get over the hump here. Brewers need to get a playoff victory. We keep making the playoffs. We keep winning the division. We need to get a playoff victory, get off the schneid here, and hopefully kind of regain some life here in Milwaukee, because I feel like we're a little bit in the dumps. We have these great regular seasons, get to the playoffs, we fall apart. I just feel a lot of momentum is not really in Milwaukee with the Brewers after how we end every season.
So I feel like I'm being a little bit more realistic by just hoping that the Milwaukee Bucks can make the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, that's all I want. Just give me a couple of playoff wins and extend the season a little bit longer for the Bucks. That's kind of all I want. And another NBA related topic, anybody but the Celtics winning the NBA title would be fantastic this year. I cannot stand the Celtics. I can't stand their fans. They are some of the most, probably top 5 annoying fan base out of any, just Boston sports in general. Top 5 annoying fan bases out of any fan bases in all sports. And then Number 3, this is a personal one, but I got the go-ahead from the wife to start training for my first marathon this year. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to run yet. It might be Eau Claire.
Boston Marathon.
You have to qualify, and I am not fast enough to qualify.
Smart
For
pick.
this. I'm not fast enough.
You don't want those Boston fans down your neck in the marathon, man.
You have to run a marathon under 3 hours. So like 2:55, 2:54 is about the cutoff that you need to run, which is like about a 6:45 mile on average, and that's not doable for me when I have a little bit of a beer belly and I'm older and not as fast as I used to be. So,
Schmitty, do you remember Mrs. Lever qualifying for the Boston Marathon when we were in high school?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's
Totally
impressive.
forgot about that. Aiden, what do you
Go
got
for it, Hato.
us?
All right, so my 3 2025 resolutions here. This is in 2025, so it technically counts. The Packers getting revenge on, I don't care who it is, in the NFC North in the playoffs, Lions or Vikings. I'll take a win over either of those teams in the playoffs this year. That would make me very happy, and I might even bust out the Jordan Love jersey again after that. Badger football getting a real quarterback and being able, like, I don't care if we lose every game. I mean, obviously I don't want us to lose every game, but if we can compete with the Big Ten, that would make me happy and make me want to watch the Badgers play football again, because it's been pretty bad. And then Otani, I hope he does it again. I hope he goes 50 and 50 again. I think that would be incredible to see. If he could even crack into the 60 stolen bases, I think that would be even cooler. And just to kind of see that guy continue to dominate throughout his whole career. I mean, arguably the best MLB season ever last year. And I think barring a catastrophic injury, will cement himself as one of the best baseball players of all time.
That guy can steal a base whenever he wants. I think he got caught like once or twice. It's insane.
It's like Pujols.
Yeah.
You know, he's not incredibly fast, but he was very aware of everything and knew when to steal a base.
Just glides.
Mm-hmm.
My 3 first is Wisconsin basketball makes it back to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2017. That is the biggest gripe against Greg Gard right now, is that he's not making deep runs in March Madness. And if he continues to fall short, his tenure might end at some point in the near future. So they got to get to the Sweet 16. They have a decent enough team to make it this year. I don't think anything beyond that. So let's. I'm like Gardner. I feel like it's a realistic expectation. Wisconsin football, they need to beat a top 25 team. They haven't had a big win in years. They play Ohio State at home next year, which is sort of the biggest marquee matchup. And they need to make a bowl game. Their schedule is super hard next year. I mean, going 6-6 is not going to be easy. They have to do it to show some trajectory with the program. And then 3, the Cubs need to win the Central. Like last year, I think everyone, Phil, Frem, and I all said the Cubs were going to win the Central. They disappointed. They traded for Kyle Tucker as one of the top 10, 15 players in the game. They are probably the most talented roster in the Central. Can they actually do it? I hope so, because we need to see them in the playoffs. It's just been too long. And I do know, like, when we talk about sports are super frustrating. We like to argue and vent about sports, which brings us to our next sponsor, which Gardner is going to tell us a little bit about.
Heck yeah, I am. We are going to talk about the Red Flag Challenge Time. We are pleased to welcome the Red Flag Challenge Timer, the pocket-sized device designed to revolutionize arguments and debates everywhere. Whether it's debating your buddy about a questionable call, trying to convince your partner that watching every game counts as family time, believe me, I try to tell Brooke that all the time, or settling once and for all who's really the best quarterback of all time, Just hit the timer and get your ruling in under 2 minutes. With its built-in impartiality feature, the timer prevents endless rehashing of the same points and even buzzes when someone starts repeating themselves. A true lifesaver for heated sports discussions. It also comes with preloaded instant replay sounds for added drama and optional referee whistles to declare a winner. For premium users, the Coach's Challenge mode lets you pause the timer and bring in a neutral third party for a final judgment. The Red Flag Challenge timer. Save time, win arguments, and reclaim peace on game day. By the way, Red Flag Challenge timer is trademarked, apparently.
That's an important piece. I think Hayden would really appreciate this product. I know he likes to debate sports. He's always the one kind of blowing up the group chat. So what do you think, Hayden?
I am all for it because that was not offsides in that field goal.
It's true. He was definitely
And that
not
should be
offsides.
something that the booth can just be like, yo, pick that up. He's not offsides. Okay,
Yeah, let's
cool.
let's
Sweet.
get the referees
isn't
the
that
red
what
flag.
isn't that what replay assistance is?
Yep.
Get
we
him the
go.
red challenge.
Love it. So that's going to bring us to the top 5. And we had this strong conversation post-podcast last week about, in fact, we've done this multiple weeks. We just started talking about Wisconsin places to visit and great things we love about Wisconsin. So we're going to bring this to the episode tonight. Top 5 favorite cities, villages, townships in Wisconsin. Feel free to, like we always do, read your list, talk about it whatever you want, but really focus in on one if you could. Prem, what do you got?
You're muted.
Oh, he's muted again.
No, he's muted.
You don't want to hear
that,
me.
Man.
You don't want to hear me.
That, man.
Mute me. Wait, what happens when you have a cough? You just mute yourself all the time. Hopefully I'll stir up the flame here. Lacrosse, I think we all have lacrosse here. I think Lacrosse is a great city. I don't spend enough time in Lacrosse. Don't go to that part of the state exactly. But I think Lacrosse is a great city. The river's right there. It's scenic, great bluffs, great city culture over there. Got a good university, etc. So Lacrosse, never been there. Should get over there. Fond du Lac. I was going to pick that one, but looking at our list, I'm going to pick a different one. Fond du Lac, I grew up in Fond du Lac for at least visiting there. My mom is from Fond du Lac, so I went to Fond du Lac a lot growing up. Great park there, Lake Park, bottom of Lake Winnebago. Fond du Lac stands for Foot of the Lake in French. So you ever get over to Fondy, it's good stuff. Good culture over there. Part of that Fox Valley area. Tosa, or Wauwatosa, as people outside of Tosa will call it. I live here, so I picked that at number 3. Great community right outside of Milwaukee. We have just about everything you can ask for, from your breweries, restaurants, local scene. We got your parks, we got your trails, entertainment, you name it. Great community, a lot of stuff going on. Happening place to be. A lot of good people live here. Biased, but so Wauwatosa, Madtown. It's our capital. Great farmers market. You got the Badgers, the university there. Great culture. Huge biking city. Great lakes. You got not the Great Lakes. Let me clarify, but the lakes that are over there are great. But yeah, it's a really great culture. I'll let you guys talk a little more about Madison, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about Milwaukee, because I noticed that no one has Milwaukee on their list, right? And so, got to give a shout out to Milwaukee. I'm not from Milwaukee. I didn't grow up in the area, but living right outside Milwaukee, I spent a lot of time going to the city. Everything from the lakefront, the whole scene along there, Lake Michigan, with all the different various beaches there, and going from the south side all the way up to the north side, etc. So many great places there. Great venues for concerts. So many musicians, so many comedians, so many people come through the city of Milwaukee to perform. So if you love entertainment, Milwaukee is your place. There's so many great venues to check out artists that come through the area. You have Summerfest. You have festival upon festival upon festival. It's just, from Irish Fest to German Fest to you name it, we have it. It's an amazing culture that way. There's always entertainment every single summer. I'm not even talking about the Brewers, even though they feel like the West Dallas Brewers based on where they're located. We have the Bucks, we have Marquette basketball in town. I know the Badger fans don't like that, but the Fiserv Forum is a great venue, an awesome place to watch a game. So Milwaukee's it's a great city, ton of great culture, ton of great food, ton of great beer, etc. Whatever you want, distilleries, we have it. It's not the biggest city, obviously, in the country, but it's one of those great markets. It's one of those mid-sized, kind of like almost like a smaller big city. And if you talk to anyone from Chicago, they love coming to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee, give a shout out to MKE and come over and check it out if you don't spend enough time there.
Love it. I'm going to go next because for those of you that don't know, Gardner and Hayden are going to give us a history lesson and give us all the good spots. Whereas my list is like, hey, just give me a list of places you've lived. How does that sound? What I realized when I was making my list is that I don't travel around Wisconsin to just like do touristy things. I like most of my traveling's outside of Wisconsin. So like I need to learn from you guys. So let me give my list first. Number 5, I have DeForest. DeForest has an amazing Parks and Rec department. I just want to point that out. The different events and things that they put out all year round is incredible. The 4th of July parade in DeForest is extremely underrated. I'd put it up against almost any other city in the state of Wisconsin. It's like that one event DeForest goes all out for. But great for kids, a lot to do just outside of Madison and Sun Prairie. Great location, but it has that small town feel. 4 is Baraboo. Grew up there, spent most of my life there. I'm gonna let Hayden talk about it more though, because he's gonna kill it. 3, I have La Crosse. My brother went to school in La Crosse. I just love visiting there, the views, the hills. Quick Trip was founded in La Crosse, which is really what's most important in my eyes. 2 is Whitewater. Just loved my time in college. Whitewater's probably not like, you stack them up, it's not like a great city. But I feel a sense of pride going to school there, knowing all the places, and just that place being infested by college kids. And it's just a fun little place. And number 1 is Madison. To all the points Prem said, Madison has absolutely everything you want when it comes to local events. You have the Capitol, you have the lakes, you have Wisconsin Badgers. There's anything that you want to do. There's a reason Madison's on the list of like places to live in the U.S. It's always like in the top 1, 2, or 3 because it literally has everything, and it still too has that sort of small city feel to it, especially if you go to other big cities in the area. So that's my list. It's not great, which is why I wanted to go second here. And I'm going to let Hayden and Gardner kind of fight over who goes next.
Go ahead, Gardner.
All right. So this was really, really, really hard to put together, guys, because do you want me to give honorable mentions ahead of time or afterwards? Should I do it afterwards?
You can go for it ahead of time.
Okay. I need to give some honorable mentions out here because I probably could have gone 10 deep with this list. In contrast to Chris, I do travel a lot around Wisconsin, partially for my job, partially just in general. Great state parks around Wisconsin. And a lot of my travel is based around visiting every brewery in Wisconsin. I think I'm at 125 different breweries right now that are actually still open. There's probably a list of like 15 to 20 breweries right now that have shut down since I visited them that are, on the list. But real quick, honorable mentions. I need to mention Eagle River, Presque Isle, Minocqua, and Hayward as some of the best up north towns to visit. I think Chris and Hayden, you went up to the Presque Isle area this year and had a good time on, was it Oxbow Lake up there? Does that sound right? Or was it Spider Lake?
I'd have to look back in the archives.
Either way, you were you were right down, like probably like 5 miles away from where my family's cabin was when we were kids. So, a couple other ones to give a shout out to. New Glarus is obviously known for the brewery, but is a fantastic little small Swiss town. Bayfield, Apostle Islands, just a really cool town in general. Amory, Wisconsin has one of the coolest breweries that I've ever been to. It's called Amory Ale Works. Check it out if you are ever out in the Hudson area. Two really awesome towns in the Driftless area, Viroqua and Richland Center. If you ever make it out that way, check them out. Viroqua has a fantastic disc golf course, Slim, that you need to go play. I find it a little interesting that none of us have a Door County city or town on our lists. It's not my favorite place in the state, but I do need to give a quick shout out to Fish Creek and Bailey's Harbor, probably my two favorite towns up there. And now I'll kind of skim through my top five. Boulder Junction, great little Northwood city, a lot of memories up there at number 5. I think that if you want to live in a small town in Wisconsin that has that small town feel, but while being 30 to 35 minutes away from a big city, Lake Mills is one of the best places that you could ever live. A great lake in town, fantastic brewery, winery, distillery. There's a bunch of outdoor things to do around there. State park right around there. It's a really cool place to live. It is very, very difficult for me to. Who's changing my list right now?
My bad. I thought I was changing mine, but I was changing yours.
As I'm looking at my list, I'm like, why is it changing?
It says that it's Julia Silver, so come on, Julia.
Phil is going to love that I'm going to mention Eau Claire here. Eau Claire is awesome. Their downtown is fantastic. There's a bunch of new businesses, restaurants that have popped up in the last like 10 to 15 years around there. That would be a cool place to live. I live out in the La Crosse area right now. La Crosse is awesome. It's unlike, it's in the Driftless area. It's unlike pretty much every other part of the state. It's got bluffs. It's on the river. It's fantastic if you like the outdoors and you like doing stuff in the summertime, going out on the river. There's a bunch of stuff to do in the wintertime too. Fantastic bars and restaurants. It's a really fun place to live. And then number 1 is Madison. If there was any other place that I would live in the state, it'd probably be Madison. Milwaukee would be a close second as well. And sorry that I didn't put my hometown on the list, but it is what it is. On to you, Hayden.
Gardner, you can always come live, in DeForest, and then you'll get the Madison vibes.
Defoe, baby.
We're happy to have you.
Correspondent.
DeForest. Okay, so yes, I do travel all across Wisconsin for our travel blog, That Wisconsin Couple. If you haven't checked it out, you most certainly should go check it out. Instagram, Facebook, just our website in general, thatwisconsincouple.com. Essentially, my wife is a at-home travel guide that I have, which is a very, very good resource to have. She has taken me places that I would have never even thought to go, nor would I think were real places. So big shout out to that. If you want to get a little bit more in depth than I'm going to, you should go check out all of her blogs and all of our social medias. It's awesome. But I'm going to start in a little place kind of by Chris here. I believe you lived here at one point, Chris.
Just outside. We were just outside. Of it. Yeah.
So this is Token Creek. This is essentially like DeForest's little brother, or I don't know, however you want to really call it. It's right outside of DeForest. But I became really good friends with a wrestler from DeForest in high school, a couple of brothers that wrestled for DeForest when I was there. And they would always invite me over on the weekends, and I would go crash with them. And we would have a really good time. Specifically one year, every year they have a parade, like a little township parade in Token Creek called the Token Creek Parade. And anybody can submit a float, and anybody can enter in the best float competition. So it was the night before, and me and the two brothers that I was hanging out with decided to enter the Token Creek parade. And we entered in his dad's riding lawnmower, his John Deere, and all three of us wore our high school wrestling singlets. And we went as the wrestling float. And it was literally just three high school guys in singlets riding on a lawnmower. We got second place for the best float. Every time the parade would stop, we would jump off and pretend to wrestle each other. It was absolutely magical. I wish somebody would have got that on film. That would have been incredible. So Token Creek, cool spot. Too many places up north, so I just put the Northwoods in general. Minocqua, Hayward, just too many places to mention. It is absolutely gorgeous up there. If you have never been, you are absolutely missing out. Green Bay, I was surprised that this was on nobody's list. I mean, me and Chris were kind of talking, maybe outside of Lambeau Field, there's not a tremendous amount to do in Green Bay. And that might be true, but it has Lambeau Field in it, which is, in my eyes, the greatest place on earth. So Green Bay is absolutely on my list. Lacrosse, kind of a recurring theme here. It's just too,
it's so cool. You don't understand how cool it is until you live out here.
It's impossible to go there and not have fun. I mean, you have to actively try to not have fun. You have to get a hotel room and never leave it to not enjoy your time in Lacrosse. 3rd Street is absolutely historic. The Lacrosse campus is pretty cool. I didn't really do anything there. I never went to school there or anything, but I had some friends that lived right off the Lacrosse campus, and it was a fun place to walk around. But just so many people from Baraboo went to college at Lacrosse, especially in the 2008, 2007, 2009 era of Baraboo. It was like you went to Stevens Point or you went to Lacrosse, unless you're Schmitty, then you went to Whitewater, which is totally fine. Whitewater was awesome as well. I enjoyed coming up there every time I did as well. But just it's hard to beat the nightlife in Lacrosse. And then after...
real quick. Have any of you guys ever been to Oktoberfest in Lacrosse?
Yes. I've never been to the grounds, but have been in Lacrosse
to the parade.
For the Oktoberfest festivities.
It's one of the largest Oktoberfest celebrations in the world.
It's so
definitely
wild.
Try to make it out there at some point. It is a fun time.
And I will say this is a little to keep yourself entertained. And this doesn't have to be in Lacrosse. This is for any parade that you ever go to. If you go to the closest gas station, Quick Trip or whatever, and if they have condiments that you can take, grab as many ketchup packets and mustard packets as you can and throw them out into the street. And when the parade walks by, and every packet you throw that gets run over by a vehicle, you get 1 point. And it is a cool little drinking game and it is so the thrill that you get watching your mustard packet get run over by a slow rolling Corvette is just something that will just hold near and dear to my heart. It is so fun. It is such a cool little activity to do. But with roster bringing up Door County, I did have to give it some love here. Door County and Baraboo both hold very, very special places in my heart. I've lived in Baraboo my entire life. I'm 35 years old. I live 3 blocks down from where I grew up. My entire immediate family, minus my sister whose house I rent, lives in Baraboo. So my family's been here forever. I have a very large family, so it is so nice to just be able to have every holiday. And anytime you want to just go see a family member or do anything, Baraboo's just an absolutely amazing place, and it's only getting bigger and better. Some people think that bigger isn't better, but it is truly good for the town of Baraboo at the rate that it is becoming popular. It's kind of becoming that last, I'm predicting that it's that last, furthest away from Madison to where they're going to start maybe calling it a suburb of Madison at some point because it's close enough and the rich people in Madison don't want to pay the taxes, so they're just going to keep going farther and farther away. And you kind of see that with Sauk right now. Sauk and Wanakee got engulfed a long time ago from overflow Madison, and it's kind of bleeding into Sauk right now, which is great. It brings revenue into your town. I'm all for it. It's all cool. I just don't want it to get super gimmicky, and I hope Baraboo never does. But Door County, I got engaged to my wife in Door County. It was the first time I had ever been there, and it was also the Bucks won the world championship when I was there as well. 2 days after, I think actually the day after my wife and I got engaged. So that place will always be special to me as well. And great golfing up there in Door County as well. They only have a couple courses, but they're both great. Peninsula State Park golf course is great.
It's a good group of lists there. One thing I wanted to shout out that I forgot while I was talking is just, like Gardner mentioned it, is disc golf is what really gets me out and about in Wisconsin, and there are some amazing disc golf courses. So if you haven't checked any out, or if you're just starting to play, like it's a great way to get outdoors, check out some really cool views. And there's especially like in Gardner's area, there's some really great courses. Justin Trails is still probably one of my favorites.
Is that the Viroqua one you were talking about?
No,
but that's the one. Hayden, you've been there. You posted
Yeah,
a
I just
story
played it.
from there.
I played it this last summer.
I was talking about Veteran Hills in Viroqua, which is also a fantastic course. Just not quite as good of views as Justin Trails. Justin Trails is really, really a very unique disc golf course.
Yeah. Baraboo used to be such a good disc golf course, and then
It was.
that community college expanding really put a knife in that.
Any other shout outs that came to your guys' mind before we leave this topic?
I just say
one more shout out to Phil.
Oh, Phil.
Philly Phil.
Yeah, we'll get Phil's list
RIP.
next week. That's where we'll start next week, is with Phil's list.
There you go.
I was just going to say the Fox Valley area in general is a really cool area. It keeps kind of expanding and building out there around Appleton, but Neenah, really cool community. Oshkosh area, that whole area is a really cool spot of Wisconsin in just terms of not quite the premier talent or entertainment you're going to see like in a Madison area or say in a Milwaukee area, etc. But I mean, a lot of great food, alcohol, whatever you want. There is stuff going on in those areas. So Fox Valley, I'd say it's probably one of the bigger. I mean, outside of Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, it's one of the bigger hubs in the state.
Yeah. Last one I want to give a shout out to Merrill, Wisconsin, one of the cooler breweries in Wisconsin, Sawmill Brewing Company. I've had a couple good drunk times at that brewery in the past. It's a really fun brewery.
So yeah, a lot of great
Cool
places.
town, too.
A lot of great places in Wisconsin. Obviously, check out That Wisconsin Couple. I feel like a future collaboration between That Wisconsin Couple and the Gardner family is due at some point. So keep checking out some information, travel around Wisconsin, keep bringing some revenue into our great state. This is it, guys. So last week of NFL, college football playoffs. By this time next week, we'll be talking playoffs. You
Hell
kidding
yeah.
me?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. Playoffs.
We're just lucky to win a game.
Can't wait. Happy New Year to all of you. Phil, we miss you, but we will see you next week. This has been the Man Sports Fan. Have a great rest of 2024.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
Happy New Year.